Okay, so it's PocketGamer.biz. We're continuing our world tour of game events. I'm in Shanghai at the moment for China Joy, and we're with Yodo1, who knows all about the Chinese market. So nice to meet you, Henry.
Nice to meet you, John.
And what's going on then? Well, first, let's before not get carried away. What does Yodo1 do? So it's a kind of an interesting name, which has some meaning behind it, and that's attached to what you do.
Yeah, Yodo1, we're a specialist. We help Western games developers monetize and distribute their mobile games in China. We focus on the iOS and Android platforms, and our tagline is "Mobilize your games in China."
Okay.
That pretty much sums it up.
And you've been pretty busy. You've been going for about 18 months now. Tell us some of the games you've been releasing in China.
We've published about 40 titles so far, and the bulk of them, I'd say over 90%, are from and working with Western developers, co-production titles. For example, I write a lot about a title called Ski Safari from an awesome team out of Brisbane, Australia, Defiant Development folks. That title, over the last 6-7 months, has garnered over 25 million users in China. So, an Australian game is now one of the hit games in China, and we just got notified by one of our App Store partners here that they've put it on their must-have section for all new users.
A few more million to download it.
I guess so.
I guess that's an interesting thing, because you're talking about one of our partners, and obviously for someone like a Westerner who hasn't been to China before, it's kind of a bit baffling, but there are like hundreds of stores and partners, and how do you make sense of all that kind of potential opportunity?
Right, we actually work with about 400 app stores in China. Not all app stores are born equal, of course, so we do tier them. We have about 20 what we call tier 1 partners, so they're partners that we have dedicated account managers working with them on choosing what games to feature on a weekly basis, and working with them on feedback on the metrics that they're seeing on the game. And then what we then do with all that data is that we work with our game studio partners together to optimize the games to perform better, both from a distribution as well as from a monetization perspective. On the surface, it's a really, really complicated ecosystem, and one of the advantages that we provide to our Western games developers is that we black box the entire ecosystem, right? So everything from the dozens of payment methods to the hundreds of app stores to the hundreds of ad networks in the market, we're pretty much federated those different ecosystem players with our platform.
But say I'm a Western developer and I've got a game I think do well in China. It's not just a case of you getting it and doing a bit of translation and giving it to your 400 partners. It's a bit more complicated than that.
Yeah. Well, I got a first rule of thumb for Western developers that don't translate your game. Yeah. The way that we do culturalization per se is that it's not just about the text, right? If you find an outsourced translator, translate it from English to Chinese, it's going to read like it's going to play like a Bruce Lee movie with Chinese subtitles, right? So it won't feel right, it won't play right, it'll just seem, subpar quality. Instead, we work with them to understand the entire storyline, the theme, what elements graphically or audio, the sound needs to be changed and tweaked. We have game designers that will optimize and potentially change some of the gameplay mechanics and monetization points, and we'll rescript the entire game narrative. So that actually most of the Chinese gamers don't even know our games are originated from the West. They think it's locally Chinese produced, right? And also sustaining the game aftermarket, right? Is there some Chinese specific content that we can layer into the game in a natural way that extends the gameplay and increase the attractiveness of the title for the Chinese audience as well? So that's really a collaboration between Yodo1 and the game studios that we work with.
And there's some figures came out yesterday about the growth of the Chinese mobile market. I think they were saying it's 171 million active players now, and I don't know. There seems to be lots of different figures given about how big the market is. It seems to be suggesting it was about $400 million, just over that, or one of the reports I said. I mean, are you seeing still kind of explosive growth, or is it starting to taper off, or what kind of trends are you seeing on that? Because everyone cares about the money, I suppose. At a certain point.
Lots of big numbers. Obviously, a huge population in China. I think there are a few indicators that we look at, and both in the broader market as well as in the metrics that we track. The first one really is how many handsets are out there, right, in terms of Android and iOS handsets. and we're definitely seeing monstrous growth there. So from 80 million smartphones by the end of 2011 to 200 million by the end of last year. Okay. And the forecast this year is going to be over 500 million by the end of 2013. So, already the largest market in terms of shipments, growing at, triple-digit percentage. Very rare. What's more interesting for us, though, as games publishers and developers, is how well can we monetize these users, right? So, do people pay for game content in China? And fortunately, that we're seeing some very good metrics. So, our revenue on a monthly basis from between January to now has grown about 10 times. So, okay. On a month-by-month basis, okay. And we're seeing quarterly growth revenue-wise of Q by Q about 50 to 100% every quarter. So,
and that's not because you're pushing out more games. You're saying you've kind of
we're actually
taking a curated kind of approach.
Yeah, we're actually tightening that up. So we're publishing less games per month, but obviously we're spending a lot more time sustaining and operating the games in market and optimizing the IAP. Optimizing the free-to-pay conversion rates in those games. Really, I think it's a number of factors, right? The sheer number of users in the market are increasing very, very quickly. Our ability to monetize each user is improving as we learn and as the market matures as well. And all the ecosystem pieces are also maturing. So, the entire experience of finding a game, downloading it, playing it, and then paying for it is becoming easier and easier. For gamers in the China market as well. So all of these additive factors added up, add up to bigger numbers per se.
Bigger numbers to come for the rest of the year.
I hope so. I hope so.
Excellent. Thanks for your time, Henry.
Thank you.